broadcast network, AFTERBUZZ TV. Over 20 million weekly downloads in over 150 countries, and your #1 source for after-show entertainment. AFTERBUZZ TV, the destination for TV superfans, producing after-shows for over 300 of your favorite TV shows, interviewing celebrities and showrunners, and bringing you behind-the-scenes exclusives. All thanks to E! Entertainment's Maria Menounos, producer Kevin Undergaro, and internet leader Akamai. Now, let the buzz begin!
Oh, we got Nando to do it! Oh, Derrial's doing the actual walker.
I got yelled at last week by doing it the other way, by switching it up. I'm doing what the real zombie walkers do.
Apparently, shoulder up.
You've been thinking about this all week.
They just do the shoulder strut.
Yeah.
For those of you just listening, we were doing our walker impressions, and we were doing Michael Jackson
Next
walkers,
week we'll do the Thriller one.
We'll do the Thriller.
Yeah.
All right, guys, welcome back to the Walking Dead AfterBuzz After Show for Spend. Once again, guys, I'm Dave Klein, and joining me today, Derrial Christon.
What's up, everybody? How you doing?
Joyce Ajouri.
Hi, everybody. Glad to be back.
And our ultimate marathon runner champion,
I don't know about
Nando
champion.
Velasquez. First place.
Wow.
You got
I think there's a bunch of Kenyans I think that would disagree with that, but I do have a medal, so I could actually outlast the zombie apocalypse.
No, that
by
is
26 miles.
You could run away from that.
I could run away 26.2 miles, but I'll tell you right now, 26.3. No, they kill me. They totally kill me.
Like, forget it.
I'm dead.
Extra 0.1. That was
That
it.
extra 0.1, I'm gone.
That was seriously a great job. Congratulations on
Thank
finishing
you.
the marathon. That's a huge accomplishment.
That is.
Yeah, it's awesome.
So, welcome back for another episode, and this was a really good episode. I think just tons of action, and also I like the drama that was happening within the town as well. There's just every point that they could hit. It wasn't just action violently and physically, but also mental violence action.
Yeah. Exercise.
Mental exercise.
This was one of my favorites.
Yeah.
Probably this second half. Honestly, this episode.
Well, we needed a lot of action. I think the last 3 weeks were slow. I mean, they were good episodes. I don't think anyone was really complaining, but
this brought it. This brought the fire.
No, I mean the whole Alexandria arc so far I've enjoyed. So yeah, it's definitely been so far a good arc. But this one especially brought it. So we start with we're getting double stuff here. I was trying to double stuff Oreos. I was trying to watch the feed so I could reply to comments, and then I started playing the audio. Anyways, the first main thing, I guess not the first, but what we get is this mission that they're going on, which is for the power grid, where they need to get various electronic devices out of some sort of warehouse, and that is the focal point of the episode that we go on is this mission where Aiden's back with Nicholas, who are the two from Alexandria, but they're actually giving Glenn charge. So Glenn is in charge of this group, and Aiden actually seems to be playing pretty nice. And it was a nice turn. It was good to see his character. Well, I mean, I guess you had to think that he's going to die for actually having that quick of a character arc, but he actually was being a good person.
Yeah.
He seemed really good. I actually thought it was Spencer for a while. I'm like, I got the two confused for a second because he acted more like Spencer.
Because he was
Like a
actually
nice
being a good guy.
Nice guy.
I will say the only character flaw in Aiden this episode was his dubstep music.
It was too good looking.
Yeah.
It's just my personal opinion. It's not my favorite genre of music, but I shouldn't have expected anything less from
that's true.
Aiden. It's just me.
It was kind of a little in your face too, of just like the lyrics of it is like, and everyone's going to die.
You're gonna die.
Also,
Yeah, it was like that's kind of like Halloweenish, like.
But how long has it been since they've actually heard music? I feel like in this time, do they even know what dubstep is? I mean, it must have been so jarring for them to hear the music at all. But that.
I mean, they had Beth singing regularly to them, bedtime tales.
You know what I mean.
Yeah, like out of an electronic speaker and all that. No, I was thinking about that too. I'm like, wow, like they haven't heard electronic music in years or anything from a speaker. So maybe exciting, like now it's time to dance to whatever it is. I don't even care.
As long as the beat's happening, they're happy.
Right.
It doesn't attract walkers.
Well, although that was sort of the point of it, was to be the walker attractor just in case.
Yeah, but then turn the damn radio on after you leave Alexandria. That's true. Or turn not the stereo system on. Don't like leave with it like that.
Yeah.
That was just weird.
A little bit, just a little weird.
Yeah.
But yeah, Aiden definitely, I mean, I guess I should have seen it coming from the fact that his arc was so quick. I didn't see it coming that he would get killed this episode. But the fact that he really did have that quick arc, since it's The Walking Dead, it's like, oh, now he's a good guy. Of course he's going to die.
We should. Yeah.
Well, he was giving Glenn a lot of respect, and actually, Deanna even thanked Glenn because I guess she kind of attributed his change in demeanor to Glenn.
But we find out some big things about him and Nicholas, which is when Aiden's dying, he admits to the fact that him and Nicholas actually left the other group behind, and they were the ones who panicked. It wasn't that other group of people who died. Mm-hmm. So that's a pretty big deal to find out.
That's true.
Is that... Wait a second. I got 0 comments. Was that from last week?
Maybe it's from last week. No, it's not, because it's talking about Franzine.
My live chat isn't working.
Yeah, that's all.
I'm sorry.
It's okay.
I'm trying, guys. I'm trying. So, yeah, anyways, it was a big revelation, which is really going to lead into next week, too, and what we find out with everything with Nicholas. But we have moments here with a whole bunch of the group within there. Like, Eugene has an entire arc to this episode, which him and the cowardly dog, where it's Eugene and Tara that... Not admitting, I mean, everyone knows that he's a coward, but how he refuses to not be a coward, and he's such a huge coward in this episode where he's forced into a position where he has to step up or lose Tara.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I liked seeing him sort of. I mean, I don't think he's ever denied who he was, but it was cool to hear him just kind of own it, like own the fact that I've told you from the beginning, like I'm not freaking brave, like I can't handle myself here. But it was cool to see him turn around and help Tara as best as he could.
Yeah, and I found it interesting too when he was having the conversation back and forth with Tara that he really felt truly that he was the reason that they were making it to DC.
Yeah,
like he was the sole reason outside of them carrying him, which she stated more, and then he's like, no, I mean, you guys wouldn't have thought about that.
And he ends up carrying her.
Right.
But that was all BS. That was just his way of getting out of doing anything by making it sound like he already was responsible for all this stuff. This was his gimmick.
Oh, sure.
And if anything, this episode, I mean, we're talking about it a little bit here and there. It seems like almost every single major character, it's like it's fight or flight. It really is amongst every single character. We get to see who the cowards are. We get to see who the real people are. In times of action, and who the cowards are, who the people who panic are. And Eugene has been somebody who historically has panicked, and here he is. The only difference between him and some of the other characters is Tara trusts him. Glenn and Noah gives him a gun. They are willing to work with him because they trust him.
I think it's those moments that are, as you said, those are the most telling moments of your character, and something you never really know until it happens to you is when you have a fight or flight type of moment is who are you truly going to be in those situations. And Eugene here finally steps up when it's someone that he truly cares about, and that's just a testament to his relationship with Tara and how much, I mean, even though she's not into guys, he's very much seems to be into her. And maybe it's just a friendship level, but he's really does care about her a lot. And the fact that this is where it really matters, and otherwise he's going to lose her, he actually does step up, which is a great step for him.
Yeah, good for him for finally facing his, I guess, fear of shooting a walker, because he wasn't doing that very well in the beginning.
Yeah, we get
that weapon.
Zach Rarick on the chat saying, thank God that Mama's boy got ate the F up. So people weren't liking Aiden. Yeah, he was kind of a dick before, but this episode I was actually liking. I was like, oh, I'm glad he evolved, and it doesn't matter.
Yeah, but he still shot that walker with body armor, even though Glenn kept telling him not to. Yeah, and then Glenn saw the grenade, and it was too late by then.
I mean, I think part of it, though, for him is that he's with this group who he openly admits right when they break into the... there's multiple moments that he has where Glenn's doing something, he's noticing like, wow, Glenn's doing this really well when they first go into the warehouse. And then when Glenn realizes that the walkers are probably stuck on something and he's really impressed. So I think for him, it was something where he almost wants to like show off for the group and be like, look at me, I can do this too. So he realizes that shooting the head's not working. And he's like, oh, well, I'll be smart about this. I'm going to shoot the walker in the leg and then I'll take it out from that, because you don't really expect it to have a grenade on it that you are going to shoot and blow up. So
it was a valiant attempt.
Right. So I think like it wasn't. I think it was not trying to be a dick per se. It was just trying to be like I can hold my own. I think that's what he was doing.
Well, there's a little bit of that, but it's also a little bit of he's just rash. I mean, originally their plan was to go into the one door and leave that same door, and Glenn wanted to do a perimeter check.
Right.
Yeah.
So Glenn is just playing it safe all around, and Glenn said before he was even, like, he didn't want him to use the bullets up on the body armor anyway, so he said draw the walker closer and then handle him that way, and Aiden was like, no, I got this. And he was doing it the easy way.
Yeah.
You know, because that's ultimately, it's for him and Nicholas, it's about shortcuts.
Yeah.
And people get hurt when you do shortcuts.
Yeah.
So that's what happens.
Well, I also was wondering, I don't even know how Deanna's group really got a lot of things accomplished with the group, because everyone wanted to leave in the moment of panic. You know, they were all willing to leave absolutely at any point, another person, where Rick's group, it's a smaller group, but you see how tight that they really are, and how skilled that they are, even though they are a smaller group, and how they just come in and they will not leave their own.
Well, this group hasn't been tested.
Yeah.
You know, they seem to be, you know, we saw it last week with the whole party and Sasha freaking out, you know, and Michonne even freaking out over like, you know, what are you guys, you know, they just so cooped up in their bubble. They haven't really been tested. And Deanna is a politician in her house. So.
And I was going to say that it kind of goes along with the fact that, I mean, there's a hierarchy of responsibility and, like, you know, people in both groups, in both Rick's group and then in Alexandria. But I feel like in the hierarchy of, like, Rick's group, everyone knows that, you know, there's a clear leader and, like, we're going to do what he says for the most part. We can have our say. But then, for example, in the situation that Abraham was in, you know, there was a leader before Abraham became leader, but no one really respected him, and it was just kind of like whatever. So I feel like that lent itself to the fact that they sort of got destroyed when they were out with Glenn and all of them. So
yeah, well, I think it's also just Antoine, this is leading to what I was saying, but kind of bounces in a similar direction. Eugene was probably softer than Alexandria. Antoine will listen on the chat. Eugene was probably softer than Alexandria, and yet he's the one that went hard. So on both ends, I think that just is a testament to the Rick group, essentially, and the fact that just how tight-knit they are, and how every single one of them, we've seen moments where they're ready to be a leader, and that's probably why they all are survivors, is because they're all willing to step up when it comes time. They're all willing to be a leader in their own rights. Even though there is that hierarchy in Rick's group, all of them have leader ability to
absolutely.
them. I mean, except for, you know, Gabriel, and maybe Eugene
I
to an
wanted
extent.
him to die for a long time now.
Yeah, but I mean Eugene to an extent. But I mean the fact that, you know, they all have this capacity within them that seems like a lot of the non-survivors don't have. And as Carl said in the previous week's episode, or I believe the first week in Alexandria, where he was like, they're all weak, and it's because none of them have this capacity within them at the moment. Mm-hmm. And Nicholas has a great capacity to run. He knows how to run pretty well.
How to run.
Oh, like what good do you think is going to come out for you, Nicholas, by running away? But I just lost my train of thought. Oh, I was going to say that's why Deanna always emphasizes on wanting people from the outside and getting them in, because, you know, if anything, they can teach that community a thing or two. But it's not going very well.
Nah.
Not at all.
Not at all. So Nicholas, though, he's really the X factor in the moment of the group, and I think he's going to be incredibly important to the group's outcome for the next couple weeks in terms of the things that he says and how he probably tries to end up covering for himself. But he's the one who led into a lot of the problems at the end. He's the reason that we have Noah is now dead because of him. We have multiple problems with, like, people being left behind. He tried to leave everyone else behind and steal the car from Eugene just for himself, so very much just out for himself type of guy. And you can see that even that's what I think that's also why Rick's group is so well with working together, and why it's so important, is because even if you can survive and you have that mentality of I gotta survive, I'm out for myself, it doesn't seem to work, because as soon as he panics to go run away, he gets himself caught in a situation where he would have died if it weren't for Glenn and everyone else trying to save him and help him out. So you really do need to work together in this situation. So that's definitely a factor.
Well, can we talk about that?
Noah?
Well, that scene with the revolving door, because I thought that was such an awesome...
It was the best.
That was such an awesome scene.
Yeah.
I mean, we saw Nicholas obviously running away, doing things his own way, which is obviously how Aiden got more or less killed, by doing things his own way. And Noah and Glenn still fighting off everybody, and they got caught in this dilemma where you're in it was such an awesome way to put this. It was like they're in a revolving door, and obviously they're walkers on both sides, and you push one direction, and someone ends up on the inside, someone ends up on the outside.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then when Eugene got, stepped up and got the walkers out on the outside, that left, like I said, a dilemma. You push one direction, and somebody most likely will die. You push the other direction, someone else will do it. So
yeah, it's definitely that was a cool dilemma to see, and just you kind of know how it's going to play out, being that Nicholas is in there.
Yeah.
You hope that Glenn's leadership will pay off. And you can tell, too, that Glenn really tries to be a leader, and you have to wonder if Nicholas listened to Glenn in both situations, how things would have played out, both with Aiden. Aiden seemed pretty dead there, being attached to the wall, essentially.
Yeah.
But you do have to wonder if Nicholas actually did really go for it and help out, how it would have worked. And even though Glenn was having trouble busting open that window, if Nicholas had actually tried and waited for Glenn to bust open the window without panicking, if this would have worked out. And something we can never know, but you have to, given that you've seen the track record of the whole group, you kind of have to assume that Glenn was probably right in both situations.
Yeah, and I was really honestly thinking, would Aiden had survived? If they pulled him out, he would have had intense
he would have
bleeding,
been
and they
bleeding
would have
out like crazy.
There was not fire where they could burn. I was thinking maybe they could burn
the
wound or something like that. But I don't think there would have been enough time to really save him after pulling him off of that. Yeah,
I was definitely thinking something similar. And I was like, at first I just saw the one in his shoulder, and then when I saw the one in his stomach, I was like, oh, he's done.
Yeah.
There's no way.
That is it for him. No.
Not even Jesse's doctor husband can help him.
That's true.
We have N Said 5674 in the chat saying Noah's also dead because he's going to be on a Criminal Minds spinoff.
Oh.
So good for that actor.
Well, I
That's great.
talked about that a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
So we knew his time was short based on that news, most likely.
Yeah.
So
but also with Noah, though, he also had kind of an arc here too, which is probably why he died. You start getting an arc, you start changing for the better. That means Eugene, you're next.
I know. I know that's true, because we saw him. We saw Noah go from this limping, kind of sort of pathetic like kid to he was a great shot this episode.
Yeah,
he was killing it.
he's studying to be an architect.
Yeah.
He's a sharpshooter. Yeah, he's here for the long haul. That was what Reggie said to him.
Yeah, he talked about how he started training. Yeah, exactly. He talked about he started training, and he was like, I was training on my own for the shots. And yeah, we get this great beginning scene
Holly,
too.
He was flirting with Holly, apparently.
Yeah, he's flirting with Holly. He's making his moves on the up and up. Yeah. But yeah,
I did not catch those and come to that conclusion. Shut up.
So regardless, so he's on the rise. Oh no, in that context. So Noah's doing really well, basically, and we get this great intro where he's talking to Reggie, and he wants to be an architect, and he wants to learn how to build the walls. And if there's any great thing that might help for the future episodes of the group trying and wanting to stay, it might be the fact that Reggie heard Noah say he's in it for the long haul.
Yeah.
He wants to learn how to maintain the walls for when Reggie's gone. He really wants to make this work. So hopefully that'll be something that'll be brought up in the future. Who knows if it will? But I think that might be a good key point to remember for the next couple episodes, which also leads to the moment where after he's died, we get that notebook that says this is the beginning, and that's it.
Yeah.
So telling.
It also is very much a foreshadow of Alexandria. You have to assume with everything, especially with the coming attractions, you're like, oh well, there's a big foreshadow for all of Alexandria.
Yeah.
If this is the beginning and now he's dead and that's it. So So I think was there anything else within that you wanted to talk about within this before we move on?
No, the only with the foreshadowing just made me think about this is when they were at the beginning. If you noticed, Eugene didn't want to take a gun from Tara, and in the end, the irony is that he ended up using the gun to.
Well, again, he wanted to save. He wanted. To, he had that one chance with the gun, and he failed miserably. He almost got killed as a result of it. But he knew he had to step up. Everybody else was busy, occupied, in danger. And it's funny that little speech he did before he took her. I'm not responsible for this. You put me in this situation. This is not my responsibility. Yeah. And then he just did it. And he was a pretty good shot finally when he wasn't shaking.
Yeah, not bad.
Oh yeah, he was fine. He was actually fine. So I guess being around the group for that long.
He was totally fine. And then of course he almost fought off Nicholas. Yeah. Like he was trying to pull the gun out on Nicholas, but luckily Glenn came and saved him and did the punch out that we were kind of hoping he would do after what happened with Noah.
It was also sorry, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, what do you guys think that means for Eugene for the rest of the season?
he's gone. He's gonna be dead because he's arcing.
I want to see him like continue this arc, this growth a little bit before we see him die. I want to see him be beneficial for a little bit.
I think the other great thing too about that whole scene is that he's the one who kept on outwardly stating, "I'm a coward, I'm a coward."
Yeah.
But when it finally came to action time, both in that moment, in the moments of terror where he had to pick her up and shoot the walkers, where he really had to make an action when he was forced into it, and then the moment where he's in his car, he can run away with Nicholas or he can stay, and he chooses to stay. Again, it's that telling action of, as much as he might believe he's a coward, as much as he might say it, when it really came down to it, he's a big brave guy, and then he thinks he's the cowardly lion, but he got his braveness from the Wizard of Oz. He got that metal courage.
Now he's gonna have more hubris as the season goes on.
When we had Josh in last season, I mean, I think I said this on camera. How I loved Eugene because he definitely shows a lot. He can show a lot of growth considering where he comes from. So I think in this new world of Alexandria, especially with whatever's happening next, I think he serves a vital role. He is the one who knows how to fix the power grid. That's just one example. He does have some brain. He does have some smarts. So he's not a leader in the same way Rick is. He's not a leader in the same way Abraham is, or Carol or Derrial or any of them. But I still think that he has a lot of wisdom.
Yeah.
And now he's finally using other skills. And I think, just like everybody else, they're all leaders in their own way. And I think Eugene's not that. It's not that far-fetched.
What are the repercussions, though? Like, we're so used to seeing Rick's group, where everyone kind of helps each other and stands their own leadership ground. But what about this new group where they're able to quickly leave their person and run off? Like, what are the repercussions of that? Do they get banned from the group, or what do you think should happen?
I don't think at the moment the group really has any repercussions. I think it's just like don't tell type of thing. It's
that's kind of what I was trying to get at earlier. Like, there are clear what's what I'm looking for. Like, everything is so clear cut in like Rick's group, and like Carol, like she got shunned for the longest time, and I mean they have that sort of consequence when people that they trust do something that's not right to them. But you're right, in this group, like it doesn't seem like there's nothing that tells them like, okay, you don't belong in this community, like go get punished. I don't know. It's not so tight knit like.
And I think that's something we definitely should get to, because we're going to be talking also about Rick and the case of the broken owl. And I think that's really, so for the case of the broken owl, though, that whole thing, that's really a point that he hammers on too when he talks about the broken window thing. That's exactly what he talks about. I think that's a huge key focal point of this episode. So let's go ahead and talk about that when we get to it. But I think that's a really great point to save. But Zach Rorick on the chat saying, as far as this is concerned, Glenn is always boss. True.
Yep.
Very true.
Glenn has become such a boss, and everyone commenting about how much they hate Gabriel, which we will get to. But next, we've got the construction zone to talk about, because this is Abraham now, his moment to step up and be a leader, which is, and as we were talking about again, and you were talking about, Joyce, which is what are the repercussions when people just run and leave someone behind, which is exactly what we have again here. Where we have, I think her name was Francine, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
Where Francine, walkers come, startle everyone, and Francine falls because of their own negligence and stupidity, and as that they're just going to run and leave her because they're all scared until Abraham steps up. And again, it's just something where it seems like with that group, it's just like don't ask, don't tell type of thing. It's just like it happened type of thing. But this is where we once again see the group just start to be full of leaders.
I love how the guy who wanted to leave Francine behind was the one that was saying in front of Francine, like, tell him what we do. Like,
Yeah.
I'm like, what? You're gonna really tell the girl that you're gonna leave behind to back you up?
Yeah.
That was so weird.
Tell him.
And then even the Abraham thing, when he had that moment, I thought it was going to be another flashback moment where we were going to see something with him. That little moment of breaking down before he
That's Tobin.
Put it together.
Tobin, by the way. Tobin's the name of the
Tobin, that's right. That's right.
Well, let's talk before we get into that. I think we should talk about Abraham, because we saw that one scene with him, throwing water on his face.
Yeah.
Even before the walkers came, he was kind of going in what seemed to be maybe a
PTSD.
like a PTSD episode.
Yeah.
And then the walkers came, and he switched right into soldier mode.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of it is, being in a place like Alexandria, the more I'm noticing it, being in a place like Alexandria, he's not used to being at peace. and again, seeing this false world. In a way, it's a false world where everyone's all happy and they don't have the same kind of problems that they've been having.
Something must be wrong.
Yeah.
Like, something's going to go wrong.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think even he's not happy with Rosita based on what we're seeing. Yeah, so he's, because I think last week I thought I noticed that, and here he is. He just, obviously, she's in bed, and he's throwing water in his face, and he's not in a great mood.
Yeah.
He's not in a great position. So, but he's a man, he's a soldier who needs a mission, and when the walkers came, he led.
Yeah. I think it's also a mission in general, too. I mean, because after that, he starts leading the construction, and, I mean, it could just be that... And maybe it's very much that whole PTSD thing where it's like when you're not in war, that's all you can think about. But it could also be a case of he needs to be in charge of something in some sort of way, because once he starts taking care of the construction zone, he's still in the zone, just leading people and telling them what to do and all that. So it could just be a case of like, as long as he's not left to his own mind
then he's
and his own space, he can function really well, just without being too much in his head.
Yeah.
Possible. I mean, that's a possibility.
That makes
but
perfect sense.
We could see. I mean, maybe Gabriel's right about Abraham. Oh no.
Real quick, the guy that said he was gonna go send a fax to Cleveland, was that a euphemism for taking a dump?
Yeah, I believe
I
it was.
so confused.
Nando called that out in there. I didn't even catch that at first. And so I saw him running back from the walkers with pulling up his pants.
Yeah, Nando was like, that's the first time I've heard that one, and I was like,
and the only reason I realized that it was a euphemism was because the guy came running back, pulling up his pants.
Right.
Yeah.
I was like, because at first I was like, is Cleveland even alive right now?
No, at first I thought he was just being like,
it's Cleveland?
Like the city?
Oh, I thought you meant like the person like from
No,
Family Guy.
No.
no, like I was thinking the city thing too, but I wasn't thinking that. I thought he was just being an asshole because Abraham's just standing there. He's like, I'm going to send a fax to Cleveland, just stay here. I thought he was just being a dick. Like, yeah, because obviously you can't do that. So I thought he was just leaving him.
I was like, who sends faxes anymore?
I don't want to sound like Chris Gore, but let's just say there's a euphemism involving the word Cleveland that involves.
No, I know that. I know
that's
that.
That's why I put those two together.
I know that euphemism, but I mean, when you say I'm going to send a fax, and within this world, I just thought that he was being a dick, and he was just like, this is something you obviously can't do. He's being a dick and just leaving Abraham to nothing, because that's when Abraham started going through his PTSD. So I'm glad you caught that. Props to Chris Gore for putting that into your mind.
I know. If it wasn't, I can't believe it.
All that AOTS time with Chris Gore.
I'm going to think things for you to remember.
I'm going to think.
No facts about.
When it comes to Chris Gore, I like to think of poop. Yes,
look,
that's where
at
I
least that's
associate
how
him.
when it goes. But look,
whatever works.
Whatever
Chris Gore in any end of that spectrum, that's very much what it is.
His
But
15 minutes are up on this show.
Antoine Wilson saying "mother dick."
That was a
Mother
new
dick.
phrase.
That's a new one.
That should have been the name of the show, of the episode.
Mother dick.
Yeah, all these new phrases. Mother dick. Gonna go fax to Cleveland.
They're gonna make their way into the Urban Dictionary in no time.
Right, so now we have Abraham stepping up, and he has become a leader, and that then leads us to, or I should say, we'll go back to home space in Alexandria, and the case of the broken owl. This is a noir episode. I imagine in a noir way where Rick's sitting in his office smoking a cigarette, and when all of a sudden Jesse comes in and goes, "Oh, Rick, my owl is broken." He's like, what are we going to do about this?
What is that a euphemism for?
I don't even want to know what that's... So, Owl is broken, and Rick's going to play a cop and flirt-tastic, man. And flirt-tastic as well. Flirt-tastic Rick, flirting it up and also playing cop, but also just being what he is. And this is what I want to talk about, too, with what you were saying earlier, Joyce, where he has this analogy, he says, with the whole broken window thing. Where if there's a broken window, what you need to do is just make it so there's no more broken windows. The only safe place is where all the windows are fixed and there's never a broken window. So it's the case of, at least I think of it as you have to fix all the crime and nip it in the bud, essentially, even if it's just something small. So everyone in the town, even her, like, and especially Pete, for some reason, I don't know why, is like, oh, well, it's just an owl.
Yeah.
But it's still that case of the whole town's mentality over everything is just ignore it.
It's like putting a blanket over everything.
Right.
And
Well,
like when things fall through the cracks, they don't necessarily fix the crack. They don't fix those things, and they don't fix the crack. And I think Rick's goal is to like make sure that nothing gets past anybody, and like that he needs to take care of like the bigger picture.
There are two ways you can look at Rick's analogy for broken window. You can look at it as one way, as I want to fix all the little things, and by just putting those little things in line, the things that you don't think are important, everything else will fall in line. Or you can look at it like the Ricktatorship. You know, like I want things exactly perfect, and every little thing is going to have a punishment for the crime.
Sure.
So those are two ways, and that's what we're kind of coming to in the head with, I think, Deanna and Rick anyway, when we get to that. But, you know, it's all in perception. So Jesse hearing that story might think a certain way because she thinks Rick's dreamy anyway. Gabriel hearing that story obviously would think very differently on that analogy.
Yeah, sure. That's a good point. I didn't think about the whole Ricktatorship analogy, but that's a great point. And I think it depends on, like with any crime, though, it's just really how far do you go with the reaction to it, or how do you treat it? I mean, something like that might just be a stern talking to.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it really depends on like the level of the crime, and you know, how much does he intend to punish for it, to determine how much of a Ricktatorship it is, I suppose.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. Very important chat thing here, though. Javier Olvera, I'm in love of Maggie. I agree with you. I had to say it was incredibly important.
There, very close. Yeah. You know,
I was like, I have to read this one.
This was the first episode where I started to wonder too if Rick, because he's kind of flirty with Jesse, is it part of his plan to, because after last week or a couple weeks ago when he and Carol have the plan of like, you know, playing nice guy, playing nice girl to get information and keep your enemies close, and he seems to be flirting with Jesse. Yeah, it seems like he likes her, but is he just trying to milk more information and kind of keep, because he knows that she'll tell him things that are going on in the community, and by him kind of playing this sort of flirty role with her, is that part of his scheme, or does he really like her in some way?
I think it's both. I mean, he's taking advantage of he would take advantage of a perfectly good situation. I mean, she opens up to him and she trusts him and vice versa. But
that's a dangerous game to play with a married lady.
Yeah.
It's a very dangerous game to play.
And he's always been so smart, so I feel like why would he be stupid now to flirt with her?
You
know
also,
what I mean?
Another thing too, when Pete came and confronted him, you saw him playing with this wedding ring again too, which makes you wonder how much does he really still think about Lori, and how much does he care for Jesse? Like, where is that line for him?
Yeah.
And also the fact that he dealt with this exact same thing with Shane.
Yeah.
True.
And now, is he going to be the Shane?
Yeah.
So, I mean, like, where's his mind at in terms of that space?
Yeah, but Shane was his best friend, and Shane pretty much had a thing for Lori and took Lori away. I mean, Rick doesn't really know Pete, and if anything, Pete seems to be a rival, and Jesse seems to be flirting just as much. I mean, you know, I get the similarities between, you know, committing adultery, but I don't think it's all 100%. And as, you know, Rick's even noticing something's weird about Pete, and Jesse doesn't seem
okay.
And Jesse doesn't seem to be very forthcoming on Pete as well.
Here's the other thing about Pete, though, that's a good thing to think about, is as much as an asshole as he's very much clearly coming out to be, he is the town's doctor. So he has an incredibly important role in this town.
And he can easily deny service for any of his kids, which is what he offered to Rick. So he has, you're right, he has a lot of power, and he has a lot of power to deny and you know, help people out.
What I also loved is that when Pete walked in the room with Rick and offered him the beer, he said, "I saw you last night." And Rick's face, you saw his face like, oh, is he talking about, you know, that moment I had with her in the room? And then he's like, yeah, you know, he like went a totally different direction, but I was Rick's
like,
face.
I saw you drinking.
No, when he first asked that question, what were you guys thinking? Because when he first said that, I was like, oh, he saw Rick kiss her?
And that's what I
first
thought.
thought.
That's what he thought. I thought that.
He had that tone about him where he's like, I'm going to confront you about something serious right now. But no, he was just saying, like, I saw you get loose. I saw you not, you know, be on duty at the party. You were drinking.
Well, it's also the fact that he's drinking then. He's clearly an alcoholic.
Yeah.
At least it comes across that way. But the fact that, once again, Rick is invading on his life in a way. This is now a time where we already saw him, the first meeting with him was that kind of outside, creepy-ish way.
Say he was probably drinking at that time, too.
He was,
not
but again, he's probably not an idiot and notices that Jesse is spending a lot of time with Rick or talking to him a lot. So
like, this is
again,
his way of getting into Rick's mind.
Right. Like, again, this is just another thing where he notices Rick is really going at it, trying to figure out about this broken L, which is in his house with his wife, trying to help out his wife. So I do think that as much as, like, it turned out to be an innocent thing with his question. It really, there was a deepness to it.
Yeah, like he has a sense for
Right,
sure.
for kind of what's happening.
Well, during the entire speech between the two, I was still waiting for him at the end to say, "And stay away from my wife."
Yeah.
Like, I was waiting for that. Even when he walked out the door, I was waiting for him to turn around and say that. And he never
But you
did.
know what? He's just intimidating Rick, but from what it seems like the person he really, lays it on thick with is his wife and his kid.
Yeah.
I mean, from what we're noticing,
Yeah.
and I think abusive husbands aren't always known as being abusive to men.
Yeah.
They're abusive to the people they can control.
True.
Yeah, Liquid Eagle on the chest saying Pete's obviously the one who destroyed the owl. I think it was very much implied that it was Sam. Sam was the one who did it.
Sam
yeah.
destroyed
But
the owl.
Sam did it because he was upset because Pete was beating either Jesse and or himself,
Yeah.
most likely Jesse,
Yeah.
the wife. So.
It was his way of coping.
Right, that's his way of coping, or
Yeah.
at least like distracting in a way. Like maybe like she was getting beaten, he breaks something so it stops. But-
Although when the whole thing first happened, I thought it was probably Pete, but then Sam finally admitted it. So yeah.
yeah, so Antoine, I did too at first, and then when Sam admitted, I was like, oh, I was going
I didn't
too
know
far
what
there.
I was thinking. I was like, why is Rick so adamant about
But
figuring this out?
Yeah.
I mean, I understand the whole
Dictatorship, baby.
I understand, like, you want to stop something worse from happening if someone's going to cause more drama, like, stop it right now at the smaller problem, but, I didn't realize it would be that.
I think this is a great question from Antoine on the chat, which is, would Rick be indebted to Pete if he saves Tara? And we actually know that Tara is not doing good, so she actually might need Dr. Pete when she gets back, and that's actually a great question to ask. And my feeling is that Rick's so in the space of his own group that he won't care too much, but it does raise the question again with Pete has a lot of worth because of the doctor, and he can fix Rick's group when things happen, so that really puts him in a powerful position.
Yeah.
Also within this whole arc, we have Carol and everything going on with Carol, which is Carol kind of villainous Carol in a lot of ways. I mean, there was a middle point where she did care about Sam, and that was sweet when she finally cared about what was happening with Sam. But still, a lot of really harsh consequences from Carol.
There's blackmail involved.
Yeah,
There's-
but we have so Sam wants to make cookies, and it kind of turns out to be a long thing where he really just wants to get a gun for his mother to protect herself from Pete, which is his dad. So it all boils down to that. And Carol doing the investigation, just figuring out it's pretty obvious the way that Sam.
Well, I think with
plays it.
Carol, we saw last week, that awesome speech with Sam. But I think seeing her with Sam this week, I realized that she doesn't want to trust anyone in the town, and that's why she's playing that position. And of course, she being the mother of the group from the beginning, and having Sophia, and always teaching the kids. And with Mika and everyone else, she doesn't want to bond with Sam.
Another
That's
kid.
why
Yeah.
she's like,
She's
get
fighting
out,
so
get out of
hard.
here.
Yeah.
I was going to say that too. Like, she doesn't want to end up having to potentially kill another child that she cares about.
Yeah.
Or worry about another child.
I was actually happy when he revealed about the owl, because I was like, okay, they both have their secrets with each other. They can,
Yeah.
we can move on from this now. It's not going to be where he's going to accidentally tell his mom or his dad what happened.
Yeah.
So
I was about to say, what a kid, where, Carol rails into him last week, like, I'm going to tie you up outside.
he's persistent.
He just leaves you there, and he's still, like, upbeat and persistent.
Can I
as
still
you
have some cookies?
Right. So
he's like, well, this is better than me being at home.
Right,
So.
yeah, absolutely.
true.
And it's got to relate back to that, which is that compared to his family situation, what Carol did isn't physical. It was a threat, but compared to Pete, his father, who actually follows through with physical violence, this actually probably isn't as bad.
But also what he said too, we don't have to be friends, but it doesn't have to be quiet.
Quiet,
That's
yeah.
probably what it's like at home. Like, no one respects each other,
No.
or it's always quiet. I mean, he realizes that they don't like each other, but why do we have to live in silence or violence or whatever it is they use to communicate?
And Pete, Jesse's cute. What are you doing?
I know.
What are you doing? So
Don't mess it up.
yeah, and then Carol at the end coming through and being like, telling Rick what's going on, and be like, you're gonna have to kill him. It's like the only solution. You're gonna have to kill
she
him.
was going to say she was going to have to kill him. I was surprised that she put it on Rick, but I guess she's like, start some type of gun draw in the neighborhood, and maybe it'll be a reason for you to have to kill him.
It's
Well,
just
I
scary.
think she would have someone like Rick do it, a clear leader, so that she can sneak up behind everybody, because she's already unexpectedly. I mean, no one will expect her to be the sort of like warrior that she is. So it would be a good way for her to sneak up on people if Rick was the first person to take the shot.
Yeah. Peach King in the chat saying, I thought Rick broke the owl first, so he had a reason to help her and get closer. I mean, obviously Peach King knows what happened, but that was just kind of a funny way to be like, who did break the owl first until you find out.
Yeah.
So Robert on the chat saying he's doing it because he's playing the game. That's why he cares about the owl. So let's go ahead and move on to kind of what's really going to matter a lot for the upcoming week, but this government land, which everything that's happening where we get Maggie's now part of the government, apparently. She's the helping hand of the government. And
that was a job she got given 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, so we get all this information coming out that Rick's group is essentially just better at everything than the Alexandria group, except for giving haircuts, apparently. But better than everything than the Alexandria group, which is, I mean, and you're getting some actual worry and fear from Deanna. It was just like she seems to not be happy about it anymore and be like, oh, I'm giving your group too much power.
Well, I thought that was ironic, though. It's like the whole point of her kind of introducing Rick's group to the town was the whole point of we need to bring these leaders in. And it's like then all of a sudden she's starting to get anxious and like, I'm putting too many of you people in power in my area. And I just thought it was kind of a contrast of irony because that was her whole point, Well,
I mean, she's giving all her power away. I mean, look at all these people who are showing they're capable and they're taking over everyone else's job. Her son, well, besides her son dying, pretty much Glenn took over the head, for going out on those runs. And Abraham's now taking construction. And who knows? Rick's obviously got a very powerful position. So I think it makes her look weak.
It's also with Tobin, especially with Tobin, he's when he comes in and talks about everything that happened, she's so like she doesn't want to believe him. She doesn't want to do it, even though Tobin, who is the head, is directly telling her to her face like Abraham was really good.
Yeah,
he should take charge, and she's like, I don't know.
I mean, shit's happening. I could see why she'd be skeptical.
She's being political. She doesn't want to give every power position away to the new people because it also would probably be a conversation that everyone else is wondering about.
But here's what's going to really matter. Oh, sorry.
No, I was going to say, I know we have to wrap it up soon, so I figured we're going to...
Well, I was going to say, I mean, this is an important part, so I think we can quickly cover a couple important things, which is the fact that once the group that gets back, and she's going to find out Aiden is dead, and then Nicholas is probably going to lie through his teeth about what happened.
Yeah.
So that's going to really construe how she feels about the group, especially her son is dead now, and that's what I'm going to be a lot about what next week's probably going to be about is her son is dead. How is she going to deal with this? And we had the really important part at the end with Gabriel coming in after ripping up the Bible. And he comes in and calls the entire group Satan.
What a Judas. Yeah, what a Judas. He's, I mean...
We're not surprised by this.
We shouldn't be surprised by this.
I hated him for so long. I wanted Gabriel to die. I was hoping this was his last episode.
And ironically, this is the guy who locked himself up in the church and let his parishioners die. Yeah. And here he is calling Rick's group evil and saying, Satan's in, you let Satan in the door.
Being just a little hypocritical.
Yeah.
Just a little bit.
I think he's just doing the whole thing where he sees this town, which is like what it used to be, and he's associating Rick's group with what it is. And he doesn't want to do that. And he just wants to, again, live in his bubble away from what it used to be.
But these are the people who saved you. You would not be alive without this group.
I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm just saying this is probably where his mind space is at.
Sorry, I got a little caught up in that moment, Dave. It wasn't towards you.
Can I also ask the question of, like, if you rip up a Bible page, does that mean you're supposed to, like, kiss it? What's the repercussion for that? Because if you drop, like, a Bible, it means you're supposed to kiss it when you pick it back up?
That's what I've heard.
Or maybe that Bible's just going to get really lucky tonight with that. So,
I have no idea.
I just had too many visuals in my head. I don't even want to go there.
Gabriel's just being a total jerk, but that's really going to play into Deanna's decision making. It's incredibly. That's going to be the thing that sets it off, especially now that Aiden's not going to be coming back alive, especially now that Nicholas is going to be clearly lying through his teeth, and that's who she wants to trust. So that's going to be what sets off everything for what we get to, which is predictions, which we'll try to do really quickly. So predictions.
Like we don't have much today.
Your AFTERBUZZ TV predictions.
I predict that there's going to be a battle between Alexandria and the group, and they're not going to agree with each other. Yeah, there we go.
I think you speak for all of us when you say that.
I don't know if the coming attractions gave it away.
This is the beginning of the end of this peaceful community.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Unfortunately, I think that Gabriel is not going to die, and he's going to end up staying with this group. And like they're going to shun Rick's group out, but Gabriel will be the one who they let in and stay.
Well, there's definitely going to be a battle between everybody. I think that the whole wolves thing that's been going on, we didn't see Enid at all in this episode either. So the whole wolves thing that's going on, and whatever Enid is doing is probably going to get tabled to probably the final episode of the season. So we have 2 episodes left, but we're probably not going to, that's probably going to have to do some kind of cliffhanger maybe for the following season. And then I think Francine might have a little thing with Abraham. You know, so yeah, I'm just gonna say that, and I just see the Rosita Abraham thing not ending well. It just seems like there's lots of little hints.
Drama.
Yeah, so there's gonna be a nice little triangle there.
I'm really curious what's gonna happen between Sam, Pete, and Jesse. I'm curious to see how that's gonna play out.
Yeah.
And Rick, please don't be adulterous. Don't do it. Just don't. All right.
Well, only if you kill him first. If you kill him,
But then if you kill him first, then it's not adultery.
It's so
it's
hard.
okay.
He hasn't had any in so long.
That's true.
That's true.
So I haven't many of the group. All right, thank you guys so much for joining us. Once again, I'm Dave Klein. You can find me on Twitter at @VDaveKlein. That's Klein.
My name's Nando Velasquez. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at NANDOVEL, and here at AfterBuzz for a whole bunch of other shows.
Nice. You guys can find me on Twitter and Instagram at JAJOURI, and on the Tuesday night podcast for Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Hey, I am Derrial Christon. You can find me at Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook, DERRIALCHRISTON. And you can also find me on our sister network. I was going to say publication. Sister network, Black Hollywood Live.
Thank you guys so much for joining us. See you next week.
Bye.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Bye.
See you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.